About to open the December 16, 2025 regular scheduled meeting of the Sumner County School Board. Before we begin, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence, followed by a pledge to our flag. Feel free to join if you would like. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, call to order the December 16, 2025 regularly scheduled meeting of the Sumner County School Board. Mr. Johnson, we will open with roll call.
Yes, sir. Everybody's here to three.
All right, next item on the agenda is adoption of the regular agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments? Mr. King?
Yeah, I'm going to add board comments back to the agenda. I make a motion to add those
All right, we have a
board
motion.
member comments.
We have a motion to add board member comments to the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
All right, I have a second. All right, any comments?
Why were they removed? Were they removed?
I'll be more than happy to answer that question, Mr. Lacy. If, the reason that they were removed previously is, board member comments have always been a time at the end of a meeting, after all the debate has ended, after all the discussion has ended, for board members to provide feedback on upcoming events, identify, highlight good things that are going on in the school system. But after some of the previous meetings and comments that have been made during the board meetings, I felt we needed to back off on offering those comments, not to stifle discussion, not to not allow board members to comment, but to focus back on the professional conduct that we expect as a board, because we have been lacking that in previous meetings. We have had comments made attacking board members. We've had comments made that I would consider to be sexist towards board members. And I felt that we needed to take a break until we could learn to act as adults. So that's why I chose to remove the board member comments. And as I've commented in the past, I put a hold on to it, and I will move it back onto the agenda. My plan is we can have discussions about it in the study session in January, and we can look at adding it back. It's not removed forever, but that's why I made the decision to remove it. So anyway, so Mr. Johnson, let's go ahead and vote on this. How many votes do we need to have this added back to the agenda?
6 votes.
6 votes to add it back to the agenda. So can we do a roll call vote? I will be voting no. As I said, I'll be adding it back onto the agenda in study session in January. And then we can discuss and looking at adding it back at that point. But for this meeting, my vote is no.
I just want to clarify, you want to add it to the study session to add it back for January?
I want to discuss
What
the
it looks
point,
like.
yes,
What
the
that
point,
looks like.
yes, what the point of board comments looks like and how we want to handle that. So my vote for this meeting is no. I respect the motion to add it back on, but my vote's going to be no. So can we do a quick roll call vote, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes.
No.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Hollis.
No.
Ms. Stewart.
No.
Ms. Barnes.
No.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
Chairman Daniels.
No. All right, motion
Motion
fails.
fails.
All right, back on the adoption of the regular agenda. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion
No.
carries. I've got a no. All right, adoption of consent agenda. Motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, second. All right, any comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, consideration of minutes. Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
All right, second. All right, got a second. All right, any comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item is recognition and hearing of delegations. I do not believe we have any recognition or hearing of delegations this evening. I do want to make one comment about recognition and hearing of delegations. One thing that I would like to look at as we move into next year, as we head into supporting our students. I would love to look at our schools having a student or a group come in and lead the pledge. possibly sing the national anthem to help start the meeting. So if you have teachers, students, things like that, I would like to look at doing something like that as we move into the new year. So be looking forward to something like that, or making some recommendations, suggestions. Again, it can be instrumental, it can be vocal, it can be choir, whatever. I just think it's an opportunity to kind of honor and recognize some of our students across the system. So I do want to mention that. Next item on the agenda is reports from the director.
Just a couple things real briefly, and I'll share, another incident in the last month where a young woman was able to save her father because of the CPR that she learned at school. I'm really proud of the work that our nurse and student health staff has done, and all the people they've trained around the county. I was at church Sunday, and we had a lady next pew over that collapsed, and our team grabbed the AED. We got her out pretty quickly, but it's just to think that you could be sitting there like most of us have over the course of our lives and have no idea how to help someone. We actually had Miss Brown and Miss Herron led a lunch and learn for central office employees, and they showcased a lot of those things. And if you look on Facebook, there was a post today from Miss Flood that shows they were learning the Heimlich, they were talking about CPR, they were talking about all the different things that go on in Miss Brown and Miss Herron's departments, and it's very well received, very well attended, and really proud. We had, many of you remember Patrick Linciani came and spoke back in the summer, and we've been doing a lot of work on my team that I hope to showcase to you soon. We had the presentations and feedback yesterday, so we created cross-departmental teams. So we got a lot of different people working together for the first time, and it's been, I just want to tease it a little bit because the work has been truly exceptional. I'm really excited. It's work here to make us more efficient and more responsive to student needs, teacher needs, school needs. So really proud of the work of our central office team. I'll close, if you follow our Facebook page, if you get a chance, or our individual schools' Facebook pages, there are so many wonderful things. Station Camp Wrestling, I signed a field trip form today. Station Camp Wrestling is going to England to represent the U.S. national team, and that's exciting. There's so many great things. Hendersonville Jazz Band and Band just killing it with student recognitions, and you can go all around the county. I hesitate to even name one thing. Browder Clemens, if it's cold, if it snows, Browder is on the news story. He contacts me faster than mainstream media. It's really, when we talk about Sumner Reddy, you're talking about a kid that's a senior in high school that has built a following with, I think, about 11,000 people that follow him on social media. And he does a good job. And he asks questions, like really good questions. And so I'm proud of Browder. I'm proud of the work that our kids do every day. And I think it's fun. Someone said the other day that they were on a panel with our students, and they were just blown away at the quality of the work they do. I had the privilege last week. I went. We have Catherine Good as a marketing company in Sumner County, and she has 4 students that do work-based learning and a student senior project with her. And so they did a project for a charity that provides after-school care and a lot of other medical care for families, and they put together a full marketing proposal for them and went through the whole process. And then they did that together, and then they each had an individual project. And so they had a whole day where they were presenting and getting feedback. It's just the opportunities our students are getting from our community is really pretty special. We had a 6-hour meeting yesterday with executives from around the country with Apple to talk about ways that they can be connected into our innovation center. It's really, really exciting. Some of the things, one of the things that they shared was there's an app that basically this woman, her dad was a D-Day reporter. He was a reporter, military reporter that was at D-Day, and she has taken her dad's pictures and narrated the story of D-Day. But you wear the VR headset and you're there on the beach based on the pictures, and you hear her voice narrating her dad's experience. So to imagine how history can come alive. History of Rock class that we have at Station Camp High School. Dee Snyder will be joining the class in the next week to speak to them about rock and roll. Yeah.
What is that?
Asking for
What
a
is
friend.
that?
Asking for a friend. Where's it gonna be? Which school?
Station Camp High School. He's going to be zooming in, I think, to talk to them about.
He's not gonna be there?
Yeah.
We already asked this.
Yeah, yeah. You know, if it involves a rock and roll act, Jeremy will dig out all the details and
Get video.
but anyway, we've got a pretty major funder call tomorrow. We're getting really close to starting to thread the needle on some funding for the Innovation Center. We're really excited about that. More to share in the new year, but really proud of the team and the support that we've had from within Sumner County Schools, within some of our partners outside that have really helped us put something together. I think that's going to be pretty amazing for our kids in the future, and I can't wait to share all that. So lots of anticipation. Kind of, it's Advent. We're not quite to Christmas, so you don't get the fullness of the Christmas story. You just get a little bit. So we have a whole lot more to come when everything will come to fruition in the spring. But I can't say it enough. You know, we have the very best teachers, administrators, and leaders, and parents and families really thrilled. You know, if you follow what happens anytime something happens, good or bad, to one of our kids, you see the whole community rally to either cheer them on or to support them in need, and that really makes Sumner County special. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the executive session. Ms. Presnell, do we need an executive session this evening?
No, we do not.
All right, Mr. King, I know you sent a series of questions. So Mr. Presnell, I talked to him, they came in this afternoon.
Yeah.
And so he plans to review those and get answers, and we plan in January to have an executive session to make sure that we get that information for you. So I just wanted to clarify that for you. And one thing I'll share with the board, when it comes to legal questions, one of the things that I really respect about Mr. Presnell is that he takes every question seriously, and he wants to make sure that he researches it to get the right and correct answer to provide back to us so that we make the right decisions as a board. So if you do have questions, I've shared this many times, if you have questions about things that are going on or questions that require an answer from our attorney, please send those to me, send those to Jeremy, send those to Todd. And if you give them enough time to research, you can get those answers for you. But that is one thing that I do appreciate is sometimes it takes time to get answers back because I know when it comes back, it's going to be well researched and correct based on the law. So thank you. No comments from the attorney this evening. Next item on the agenda is new business discussion or action regarding the TISA report. So, Dr. Langford.
Sorry.
I'll read the motion anyway.
Sorry, let me start. Do I have a motion to, do I have a motion to approve? Second? All right, we've got a second. All right, now we'll open discussion. Dr. Langford. now that you
Ill-timed
had
piece
something to
of
drink,
Christmas
all right.
candy, so sorry, I succumbed to temptation. Y'all had the report. We looked at this in October, and I think November study session. We've had two presentations from our academics team, so I'm happy to address and answer any questions that you might have about the TISA report.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. So I just noticed I don't know if it's a typo or what. I just wanted to get clarification on it says our goal statement 2 for 6th through 8th grade is 53%, but then if you go to look at the several pages where you have a breakdown of the goals, it says goal statement 2 is 60.2%.
What page
So-
are you on? Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so page 2, you have the goals, right?
Right.
It says district goal statements, and it says 53%, which that's what it was when we initially did that a couple years ago. That's what it was stated. But when you go, page 7, it says goal statement to 60.2%.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a typo, or maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's because it's talking about, like, if you look at the goal statement is 60.2% by 2028. If you look at year 5 on the previous page, it's 60.2% will meet or exceed state expectations. So the heading on the next page captures the 2028 goal.
Okay, so on page 2 it says 53% of 6th to 8th grade students will meet or exceed expectations on the ELET cap by 2028.
Yeah, that's a typo. I think that was left over from the previous one. We could fix that.
Okay.
It should be 60.2%.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because
Yeah.
on last year or 2 years ago, when we initially got this rolling and we were presented like, here's our goals, it was 53%.
Yeah, I
So
think
guess it
it just didn't get updated. It
It's been
should
an
be
update.
60.2.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll fix that.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
And we're just voting this is what we're submitting.
This,
that
this
right?
is, yeah, we have to
Okay.
have, there's a process that we have to follow. This is on the comptroller side, and so for the legislature, and so we have to send this report. We upload it into E-Plan, which goes through TDOE, but it's a function of the legislature required by law, and it basically says, here's our goal, because they're wanting to move the needle by 2028. That's the next
Yeah.
goal. And I would encourage you, if you get a chance, this is a little bit aside that, but if you go to TN Score, that's kind of one of the main drivers of education reform in Tennessee, they have a thing called TN 2030. I would encourage you to take a look. There's some really good data dashboards on there, and it shows, one of the things, if, for instance, if we went between now and 2030, if one kid in each classroom each year moves into proficiency, we'll be at 74% in 2030. So it really that's what I think, y'all got to see Ms. Connor last time. Ms. Connor's the best I've ever seen at taking data and connecting it to the way that we provide data to teachers to improve what kids need.
Can you repeat that one more time? Because that's a question that I actually had, is when we talk about how many students are we talking about? I know when you look at numbers, sometimes depending on the number of students that are at a certain level versus another, you may be talking about, you missed it by 5 students, 10 students, 4 students,
Yeah.
200 students. So even those percentages based on size could be different. So what was it, one student?
One student per classroom per year.
And how many classrooms are we talking?
So, I mean, we would have roughly 125, 130 in the lower grades. And such, but that would be like if you teach 5 classes
Okay.
or 4 classes. It'd be like, so if you have 4 classes, it'd be 4 students
Okay.
per year. But, it doesn't take much. I want, we started a thing a few years ago, Ms. Skinner actually came with this focus on 5, where you pick 5 kids, because sometimes it's overwhelming, especially for new teachers, to walk into a classroom and have 25 students and think, how do I address the needs of all 25? If you pick 5 strategically, you will hit the overwhelming majority of the needs in the class. So, we shoot for 5 if you improve 1 per class per year. I'll tell you one of the most amazing things, Portland High School put together this great booklet of their focus on 5, and they had a girl that was in the behavior class, and she said that the teacher had chosen her for focus on 5. Said it's the first time she had heard something positive in her school career, and she ended up with the highest biology EOC score in her class. So it really, because it's more than just pounding the academics. It's also getting to know the student, learning that kid, learning what they need. As Ms. Brown shared a number of times, like, it's supporting the whole student. And our teachers are really good at that. And I think, you heard from Ms. Connor that it's that work. But it does not take, I think what you have to do is you want to look across the spectrum, because with No Child Left Behind and heavy emphasis on multiple choice testing in the early 2000s, everything in education shifted towards the bubble, like getting kids that are just under proficiency over the line. And the problem with that is kids across the nation didn't get focused on if they were in those bottom quintiles or the highest. And so what we're trying to do now is make sure that every kid is encouraged to learn. I think that's why you see a thing like Course Mojo is so successful, because it provides the right scaffolding, right support at the right time for each student. And it doesn't, for the highest kids, your gifted kids, they don't once they know the answer, they typically just want to move on. They don't want to have to explain their answer. And they're not used to having to explain their answer. And when they're pushed to do it, they don't necessarily like it. Once they get into it, they're fine. But then the same time is a lot of times, kids in the lowest, they need that support without the expectations being lowered. And that's what, our teachers are learning that. I think, Mr. Danny, to your point, we have so much data, and it's important to be able, and I think that's the thing that Ms. Connor does really well, is what's the right data to move the needle for kids in the classroom, like right now. Because the thing is, like, your TCAP data is important. These numbers are important. I'm 100% an accountability person. But the thing is, like, this data is now about 6-7 months old. So you want to be looking at the data of a lot can happen in a kid's life in 6 or 7 months. So teachers are using their classroom data, they're using our benchmark data, things like that to drive change for kids. But yeah, it's a handful of kids that will move the needle.
Mr. King, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment, I was looking through the action plan for these, and I'm very pleased to see some of the things that are planned. Reading interventionists at every school or serving schools during intervention for ELA. Foundation literacy specialists. Is that for 3rd grade? Is that going to apply to 3rd grade?
So yes, it does hit 3rd
Okay.
grade, but it's like, the thing is like, I think one of the things that we're still overcoming, this is again a nationwide trend, is testing. Most places starts in 3rd grade because of federal accountability. And so for a long time, there was not as heavy an emphasis on the K2 foundational literacy piece, and that's where we've invested heavily in. So yes, actually our foundational literacy goes through K3. And then what we're finding now that we've taken that as a base and we're getting kids that have gone through all 4 years of that, we're now able to pinpoint. So we're getting a lot more of it in 4th and 5th grade because we can eliminate things like a kid that has strong foundational literacy, we almost never miss dyslexia. Where before you would have kids go through their entire school career and we wouldn't find until later they had dyslexia. Foundational literacy roots out a lot of learning disabilities very early, and if you can find it, the earlier we find it, the earlier we can intervene. And so, Mr. King, to your question, yes, it does apply to 3rd grade, but also, obviously we don't want to not catch kids in K2 and other grades as well. But Kara Schmidt is our reading interventionist coordinator, and she's absolutely one of the best. She was at Nanny Berry for many years, and the successes that they see routinely. Tiffany Wilkinson is an elementary coordinator. Her along with Dr. Bowman, we're seeing a lot of good things happening. Probably the biggest challenge that we face right now is there is a lot of turnover statewide in 3rd grade with ELA teachers because of the retention piece and the stress on that. So we went back this year, we retrained all of our 3rd grade teachers in the curriculum and foundational literacy. We're providing a lot of support, reading intervention, but also across the board in 3rd grade to provide support for those teachers because we have a lot of new teachers in that area.
And then of course 6th through 8th grade we got Course Mojo that started, and can you give us? I'm hearing that that's going well, and so we've got that going. I just my thing is some of these goals like year over year are really like an increase by. I would be thrilled to see a couple of points of increase, versus 10 points. That would be awesome. But
Yeah.
realistically,
Yeah.
if we can get our grade bands above 50%, man, that would be. I think that would be a cause for celebration. That means we're heading towards these. That means these things are working.
Yeah.
So I'm very anxious to see how all of this transpires. So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I agree.
Is Course Mojo, is it in every school?
6th to 8th grade, I'm not sure that the magnet school is using it.
Okay.
They could, but I think that they're in a different place in the sense that they're at like 99% proficiency. So sometimes they'll find their way and use it. They have access to it, but I don't know. I'd have to dig in and see. I can ask Ms. Skinner and Dr. Miller to see what the usage is at Merrill High, but every other middle school is using it.
Any other questions, comments? I do want to point out in the audience, we have Ms. Myers back there, one of our ELA teachers from Schaefer. So I had an opportunity to visit her class earlier this week or last week. I don't even remember what day it was. Days are kind of rolling together here this time of year, but it's great to see how she's teaching her students and helping them continue to become competent in the English language. So thank you for what you do. Next item on the agenda. Oh, actually, we have to vote. I guess my fault. I forgot we didn't vote. So I saw discussion there, so I missed the action part. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda: discussion or action regarding special education playground update. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Hayes, second. All right, Ms. Stewart.
Or what are we exactly approving? I'm just.
Dr. Langford?
I think we'll have the presentation,
Okay.
and then we could refine a motion if we need to.
Voting on King of the Playground. King of the Playground.
Yeah.
King of the Playground.
All right, good evening, everybody. As you may recall, we met in November and gave everybody an update about our playground committee. As a reminder, I'm Julie Daniel, I'm the Director of Exceptional Students, and this is Chris Harrison. He is our purchasing supervisor. We're both members of this committee, which does include parents. Andy Gilly was able to meet with us in our last playground committee, which was very helpful. So just wanted to provide a little bit of an update where we stand. If you recall, when we met in November, we shared that we have identified there are 24 students across 14 schools, and these students are in K-5. These are all students who either utilize a wheelchair, another assistive device, or a combination of both. And so we wanted to isolate those schools and kind of dig in and see where we stand with playgrounds in those particular schools. All right, when we met on November 21st, that was actually our third playground committee meeting. We were able to reach a consensus from the members of that committee in that room that day, and we all felt that we needed to identify where the greatest needs are and to have a really clear plan about how we're going to move forward with the money that's allocated for that. We also want to make sure that we maintain the priority of the pathways. When we met with you all in November, we had shared that we identified 3 buckets of work, really, and that is pathways, because accessibility has to happen, surfacing, and playground equipment. And every school, when you look at those 14, are in different, either their needs are different across those, but we all agreed that the pathways have to happen no matter what. We are also able to identify that the 2 schools who have the highest numbers of students are a good starting place, and that brought us to Gene Brown Elementary in Hendersonville, as well as Station Camp Elementary. All right. The other big topic of discussion for our committee was the type of surfacing. Chris is our resident expert in all things surfacing, but there actually, after much conversation and debate, we all agreed that the use of artificial turf was the way to go. I think it's just important to note too that we do have parents as members of that committee. These are parents who know exactly how their students are able to access playgrounds, and the parents on this committee also agreed that turf was the way to go. All right, we also had a big discussion, and Andy Gilly was very helpful with this, about the use of a master development plan. Chris can go into detail about that, but we were all in agreement that that is going to help us meet the needs of those schools and was the best path forward. All right, on December 2nd, because we knew we needed to look at Station Camp and Gene Brown, on December 2nd, a small group of committee members, myself and Chris included, along with Chip Connor and Kelly Carver from our playground, their maintenance department, but our resident playground experts, as well as our physical therapists. We met, I think it was like the coldest day of the year. The grown men were shivering out there. But we went to analyze what those playgrounds currently look like, what the access points are, and what kind of work we could do there. So we were able to do that, and after that conversation, we really realized that we have to think about a standard model of approaching these playground adjustments, because all of the playgrounds are quite different, the way that they're spread out, what equipment is currently there, and we need to think about how we're going to tackle those projects. And that would include equipment that would be appropriate there and something that is enticing to students and obviously promoting inclusivity, and then also what it would look like to turf areas of that playground.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Evans, you can blame Andy Gilly about the artificial turf. No, he was a big advocate for that because with the solid surfacing, they have experienced a lot of problems with the parks there in Harrisonville. He wasn't a huge fan of it. It's understandable why you would want it. It's a great hard surface, but it comes with drawbacks, and every surface does. There's nothing perfect. But he was instrumental, so you can blame him. I told him your objection, and he said he'll talk to him. So we went out on she is right, the coldest day possible. So we started at Gene Brown, and it's an existing playground, and this is a thing that we realize is going to come up from time to time in trying to add spaces and add these inclusive areas in existing spaces. Because you've got PTOs, you've got all kinds of groups, and we've had grants, and we've had multiple sources of funding to get what the students already have there. So we're trying to be conscious of the fact that it took a lot of hard work from a lot of people to get what we have. So we're not just going to go in there and rip out everything that someone else has worked so hard to do. But at times you're going to have to look at the age of some of the equipment. So when we got to Gene Brown, it's one big playground area kind of meshed in there, and there was all this really nice newer stuff in the back part, but in the front it was some very much older style things that I remember from being a kid and playing on. So we identified this area, which was more open than not, and decided this would be a good area. We're not making these decisions arbitrarily. The principal was involved. At Gene Brown, there was a piece of equipment there that he was very adamant that he wanted to keep. And so we're going to look at exploring moving it from that place to move it to another spot on his playground so he doesn't lose the equipment, but that we get a space that we can use for the intended purpose. So that's Gene Brown. Cost-wise, we're not there yet to give you these kinds of information. But when we went to Station Camp, we looked at that scenario. So Station Camp already has artificial turf. Now it's got 2 little poles with where you shoot the ball in it and it rebounds it back to you. Then the rest of it is open area. And one of the things that we tried to consider there is let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's use what we have in the space and add equipment to it, so that we don't have to try to create a new space. We can use what's there. Their existing playground, the mulch side, you'll notice on here, I had on here address mulch mitigation. In the furthest end down on the right hand side, it is leaching out underneath. So these have plastic borders, and if you've been to any of our playgrounds, y'all know the plastic borders. Well, they're intended to hold mulch in, but they're not built to be retaining walls. And these are kind of, the way that it is built up there, it's trying to be used as a retaining wall, and it just can't support it. It can't support the weight of the mulch. It gets wet. Mulch deteriorates. So all that black, grayish looking, it'll just seep out from underneath there. And so then you get a walking track that you've got one big section of it that can't be used by people with mobility issues because it's covered constantly. So that's a problem that, we want to try to make as much accessibility as we can. We've got to address that problem too. So that's the thing with those 2 schools that we've identified. And we will definitely be working with the principals of these schools. But as Julie said, we want to come up with a standard model. Like, we want to say these are the types of equipment that at every school going forward, this is going to be the standard for these types of areas. And in some spaces, you may not be able to fit as many pieces. There may be some locations that we can fit lots of pieces in. There may be others that you don't get as many. So it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. All of our playgrounds are very, very different. Lots have space constraints, and we just have to work with the space that we have. But the goal, and I'll go ahead and get into that, is the master development plan. So this came about, Mr. Gilley talked about the funding that's made available to the city of Hendersonville through grants that wouldn't have been possible without a master development plan. They used a company, Kimley Horn, to help them develop that. So what this will do, and you can read here, it'll document the existing conditions. It'll outline a strategic plan, determine needs for future playgrounds, and the most important, too, is provide that accessibility to grants. So without a plan, some of these grants, you don't even qualify. You can't apply for them. They want to know that you have something you're trying to accomplish rather than just a novel idea of I need $500,000 for playgrounds. They want to know what's your plan. So if we don't have something that we can hand them, we might not automatically get rejected, but our scoring profile will be much lower, which will lower our chances of getting any funding. So, so we've looked at this. I talked with a representative of Kimley Horn just to get an idea, because I knew the first question that we get asked is cost. Cost is scalable. So it really depends on how we intend to use them. It's hard to get these people to commit to a firm number, obviously, until we tell them what we want to do. But we're in the neighborhood of $80,000. I was expecting up towards $100,000. So, but this is not just a simple design. They come out, they assess the sites, they look at the grades. They're looking at this holistically to say, you need pathways that go like this, step downs. They're going to look at all the aspects. It's not just to come in and draw us a pretty playground. They're going to show us why we need to do what we're doing. And so, with that said, if you're okay with us heading that direction, that will take away from the money that we have. But we looked at the existing sites, Gene Brown and Station Camp. We feel like that we have the funding with the amount that we've been given so far to still accomplish these goals, all the goals that we've already set out. It would be our intention to hopefully do more than these two schools. But we knew that these were the most important schools to try to get to first. And if we had funding left over, we would definitely try to look at another location and see, what location can we do with the funding that we have remaining. But I figure you guys might have questions about the development plan, and I'm happy to answer. I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I can answer maybe some of your questions.
Well, one thing I do want to mention, I think this is real important, and I've mentioned it a couple of times. We have dollars that have been allocated towards this project. It was never my intention, and I don't think it was the board's intention, that be it, right? That be the max. So when we're having this conversation, he's saying, hey, this is the money that we've been allocated. He's right. At this point, that's the money that's been allocated. But we can tap into for things like this. But again, I don't think it's any intention of any board member to say, hey, we've got X amount that's been provided by the commission and what we agreed to in the last budget, and say, hey, that's it. When we run out, nobody else gets anything else. I think as part of this plan, it allows us to see what the vision can be for these two particular schools and the rest of our community. And then when they come back and say, hey, this is what we can look at from a cost, it opens the door for the grants. It opens the door for conversations with our commission and even with other individuals within the community that might be willing to step in and help support, building these types of opportunities for the students in our school. So I just want to kind of mention that on the front end. But let me start with Ms. Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And thank you for stating that, because my understanding was this is going to be an ongoing project. We're going to continue to invest in and budget for our playgrounds, for all of our schools. The company that ballpark figure of $80,000, will they go ahead and develop a plan for the county that we can then have the first two schools, but yet we've already got something that we know we're going to do this next, and this next, and this school?
Sure. The first thing I have to do is request for qualifications. I have to go out basically for a type of bid so that we can go through the process of selecting a firm to do that for us. I spoke with this company because that's one that Mr. Gilley had recommended that the city of Hendersonville used. As far as development of a plan, they will help us in any way that we're willing to pay them to help us. So they are, she was very open that they can do it all. So
I think, Ms. Harrison, you could go into a little bit more detail about exactly what that, it's even down to finding the best pricing with vendors and knowing what's the best equipment. You mentioned the grading. I think that, it's quite a bit for $80,000 to get that level of specificity and planning and knowledge.
And we weren't we were limiting it to the sites that we've identified. So this was not a district-wide plan as of right now. This was just limiting it to the sites that we're at, which we all know can change in a moment. You know, whether a child maybe moves, transfers in, this can change on us, but we have to go with the information that we have right now, and that's why we looked at those 14 schools. So it's not all of our elementaries, but they can develop. They can develop the plans. They typically the way she addressed it is if we selected a certain manufacturer, they would work through that manufacturer and show us a plan using their equipment. So it would be a design layout. I don't necessarily know about cost, but they do work directly a lot of times with these manufacturers. And I spoke with one of our manufacturers prior to this conversation, and she talked about using those types of companies that they reach out to her and work on the equipment. They can get us preliminary costs, but it's just going to be estimates. It won't be actuals. So.
And one other thing I want to mention before I go to Mr. Evans is one of the reasons that we moved our board meeting to this week is because we wanted to be able to have this conversation. And if we chose to move forward and put this out to bid, we could start that process immediately instead of waiting until the end of January, which then puts us February, March before we got any information back. So I know we had some board members out when we made that change, but that was one of the reasons behind that change. So, Mr. Evans.
First of all, Andy, that's funny. The turf thing was mainly, and this is my question, and actually Kimley Horn would help with this, is the fact that whatever we're building, we have to get clarified with insurance. For the simple fact that if we're building, the reason why the parks, a lot of issues we've had with our turf there, I can say it because I was there for 5 years, was because everything's a floodplain. So of course, you get one flood, your turf is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the current status of all of our locations of all of our playgrounds at every school, but I'd probably guess that there's some that would not fall underneath that. So we have to Kimley Horn can help us mitigate what that looks like from talking with our insurance to make sure that warranties are followed, warranties are able to be not only accessed, but especially if we have an issue in the coming years. I absolutely support using, and it may be a different vendor, that's fine, but I mentioned this in our budget meeting, like I brought it up and everybody shot it down, which is fine, but I said using a company like this because while we have a great committee of people that have said and that are helping steer this is a professional company that does this every single day. It's not like they're going to come in and make us do something that's just like out of the ordinary. They have the expertise and the background to do it right. And so when I think about spending money, I want to spend the money correctly so that we're not going back in 3 or 4 years and having to fix things.
Right.
Because then you're just going to end up spending more money. If it's done correctly and done right on the forefront, then hopefully it'll last the length of what it should. So I highly suggest going through this process. And if we have to ask, it's not asking for more money. We have money allocated for this. He's saying it doesn't change these projects for right now. So again, if we spend this money to make sure that the longevity of this project across the 14 schools and maybe even more along the way are done right, correctly, and it's done efficiently, then it's worth the money and investment on the front end, so we're not paying for the next 5-6 years of constant upgrades and patchworking things. I think we have to, as a county and as a school system, we have to get out of this idea of just like putting Band-Aids on stuff that needs surgery. This is something that I definitely support the fact that, and I commend our PTOs and the parents and the local people, like our local businesses that put money into our playgrounds and stuff. But in reality, this should be our thing that we fix. So, utilizing a group like Kimley Horn, who does this literally every day, is absolutely the right path to do this, and I will support that.
Thank you. Ms. Barnes?
Yes, just a clarifying question. I think I understood what you said. The ABK is more than just the 2 elementaries. It is looking across the 14.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
That's great.
I really appreciate the work of the committee and understanding, really getting down to what's going to bring the highest impact. And especially, I support as well the master development plan because this strategically sets us up for the future. So I appreciate the work.
Mr. King?
Yeah, has Kimley Horn, they design and install, is that right? Or they just do?
They only do the design.
Okay, they do the design.
They'll do the
Okay.
design, and then we would have to go out for bid for the
Vendors.
actual installation, yes.
I gotcha, okay. Yeah, and then, have they visited the two schools?
No, sir.
Not yet,
As
okay.
of yet, no. We, like I say, we have to go through a process to select a firm. So I'm not gonna ask someone to come out until we have officially. So, my intention is to bring back into January meeting a recommendation for a consulting firm for you guys to consider. That is my goal.
Okay, so a consulting firm would be, for example, Kimley Horn
Yes.
or some other one, okay.
Correct. Yes.
And then we would, so we wouldn't be voting on that tonight, we'd be waiting for your recommendation after you meet, so the committee's gonna address that, I assume?
We meet in mid-January?
Yes, my intention, like I say, my intention is to, there's, right now when you get into the holidays, people scatter.
Sure.
The lady that I spoke with in particular, she's gone for 2 weeks. So, and that's kind of a universal, I don't know, everyone's taken off the last 2 weeks of the year. But I intended on having a bid, the response is received by the 14th of January, in time for us to review them and to give you guys a recommendation on who we'd like to select. That's my plan.
Okay, cool.
And I think just for clarification, it's a multiple step process. So tonight we would say, hey, let's move ahead with putting out the bids. Then they come back and we look at the bids and we agree, hey, we want to use them. And they go out and develop a plan. Once they develop that plan, they'll come back and we'll look and say, hey, this is what the plan is. This piece of equipment, this is how much it's going to cost. And then we vote on that as well. So there'll be multiple votes as we move through this process. And obviously the committee will be in tune in all these conversations as well. So they're not going to come back with a master development plan and say, here's what we think. And the committee hasn't had a chance to look at it and be like, oh, I would change this or I would do this. So they want to make sure they have time to review it as well. But this does put us on pace to be a little bit, to move a little bit more quickly through the process. Started in January with bringing the firm out if we've got one we choose, and then that way we can start, looking, hopefully maybe as we get to the end of the school year, be ready to put out bids for equipment so we can start getting stuff done over the summer and we're ready to go next year.
Right, and that was our time frame. You didn't want to take down the playground during the school year, especially because we'd be getting into spring and summer, and that's when they're outside the most. So we've intended to have the changes to the playground to happen over the summer when there's not students there.
And that also allows us, just from a financial standpoint, the money that we have allocated this year in the budget allows us to go ahead, if we have bids come back to purchase the equipment, we can go ahead and do that. And then as we look at next year, what additional funding do we maybe need to look at? So, Mr. King?
Yeah, I just want to get clarification, so tonight, we're not really voting, what are we
We're
addressing
voting to
tonight?
move ahead with the request for the RFP. So there's no financial
Okay, I got
element
you.
tied to anything tonight. They'll come back and say, hey, here's what the bids are after they open the bid packages. And then we'll say, hey, we're comfortable moving forward with this, we approve it. And then I assume we'll sign the contract with that company, whoever we choose as a board, and then they'll start working on the master development plan. And then once that piece is finished, they'll come back to us and say, hey, here's the plan, here's the cost, here's the equipment, here's the things we need to do to fix the walkways and everything else. And also it gives staff time to look and say, okay, what pieces can we do, from a walkway development side, retaining wall side, to the purchasing of equipment and installation of equipment that we use. So does that help answer that?
Yeah.
All right, we already have. Any other questions, comments? All right, so we've got a motion to approve moving forward with the RFP. Any more comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank y'all. That's exceptional work. I'm really, when you think about the work that's been done to bring in parent, community, Sumner County Schools, City of Hendersonville, thankful for Andy Gilley and he shared in the professional experience of the ones that they've contacted. I think that's really exciting for the county. It'll open up a lot of doors for us.
All right, next item on the agenda, discussion or action regarding the high school curriculum guide. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Hayes. All right, discussion.
If you look through this document, it's mostly, I'm happy to explain and go into the details of the high school curriculum guide. Most of the changes are in here is, the state changes course codes all the time. We add new courses. There are law and state board of education changes, and so each year we get a team together. I will, encourage you to look at the start. You can see this is not like a one-day thing. They meet over most of the course of the fall. Dr. Miller led this team, and you can see the team. You can see the team there. Down to central office staff. Then we have assistant principals, school counselors. You'll see a lot of assistant principals and school counselors on there because the main purpose of the high school curriculum guide is to get the coursework and the requirements for valedictorian, different things like that correct. And so the assistant principals and school counselors are the ones, they use this document every day. If you have a question about what counts for transfer, what counts for everything academically in high school, this book is the first stop. It also has the process for the way that we add things. You'll see things in there like how we define what counts towards valedictorian and salutatorian. I know it'd be hard to imagine that sometimes it's contentious on who gets to be valedictorian and salutatorian, and so we set that policy at the county level so that it's consistent across all of our schools. But anyway, I'm happy if you want to take a moment to look through and see if you have any questions. There really aren't any significant changes this year. It's really just you have to go back through every couple of years and clean it up and work on the formatting because of the changes that happen over time.
I know we approve this every year when it's brought to us. Last year, I don't remember if it was before we reviewed this or around that same time, I know Merrill Hyde came in and talked about the change they were making to valedictorian, salutatorian. Has that been implemented, or did we have any success with their process or any challenges? Is that what we're moving forward with all of our schools, or is it still only at Merrill Hyde right now?
Right now, it's just at Merrill Hyde, and just for an update, if you remember that discussion, they were in a situation where kids were not taking additional fine arts classes. They were not doing career pathways. They were not doing work-based learning, or as we get the Innovation Center rolling, they wouldn't have been doing that as much because they wanted to stay in the Val-Sal race. And I really think for what Mr. Frank laid out is so exceptional because it ties into the PADEA approach for school, which is we're not only producing fine students, but we're producing fine citizens. They're encouraging them. There's a whole reflective process on what it means to complete the program at Merrill Hyde. They were already having 9 or 10 valedictorians every year, so they capped, like if you get to 25, I think it's 25, you get to that number of AP classes, then you're in the running, but you have to do a number of other things to community service, everything else to show the good person aspect to it. I think it's really exciting. I think that we probably need a year or two run at Merrill Hyde to work out the kinks and to get the feedback. The great thing about Mr. Frank is he'll have extensive feedback from parents, from students. I think overwhelmingly at Merrill Hyde, I think it's been good. Mr. Frank has done a tremendous job trying to get at the culture. He began to pick up on this 4 or 5 years ago that the anxiety level of their students was off the charts. And not just the anxiety, but also, kids kind of gotten into an arms race to see who could go to the most prestigious school, which is great. We want our kids to have every opportunity, but we also want them to be at the right school for them. And so they've done a whole lot of work to try to give kids the opportunity to do more exploration and just enjoy their school years more while figuring out what to do. And I think that the overwhelming sentiment in my conversations with Mr. Frank has been that the parents are relieved, the kids are relieved, their quality of life is better. And I do think that this will be something good for us to consider for all of our schools, but we're probably maybe next curriculum guide or two away from trying to look at that across the board.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item is discussion or action regarding Portland High Stadium project reduction in retainage. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? I got a second. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion or action regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Motion to approve? Mr. King, second. Mr. Lacy? Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item, discussion or action regarding amendments to the federal budget. Motion to approve? All right, Ms. Hayes, second. Mr. Lacy, questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion of study session items. Mr. Johnson?
We will have a couple of policies. We'll also have a couple of discussions about, we're looking at different ways to start preparing for the budget a little bit early, but I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be yet. So, but we'll see it in January.
Thank you.
I noticed we got a couple of requests for Merrill Heights HVAC. Would that be on the discussion?
That'll be part of the budget discussion. I don't know if that will be the January study session. I actually met with Mr. Hyde. We talked about some things, and we would talk about going out to talk to Mr. Frank and get some ideas for a plan. I mean, just to give you a little bit of a nutshell where I think we are, it's bigger than just looking at the HVAC. Like if we're going to do significant work at Merrill Hyde to include HVAC, then it needs to be more than just the HVAC. And we want to do that once and kind of hit everything. So that's going to require a little bit more extensive planning, and we can get ready for an early January study session. But I will give you, when we come back in the study session, we'll lay out, like we have, we start budget meetings with the departments in January. I'll give you all a full, we'll talk about a retreat. We'll talk about budget items and how we can lay that out so that it's not all stacked up at one time on budget, where we can look at some of it piecemeal. I will tell you that, we approved the TISA report. TISA funding, the state is transitioning systems, and so the TISA numbers themselves it's getting better each week. We get a weekly report of where the numbers are, but there's a lot of, obviously when you're transitioning data from school systems in one district, it's hard. When you're doing it across all the districts in the state, it takes a while. The data management piece, that's pretty big. So we're kind of still waiting on what that's going to look like. We got our TISA outcomes money. That's money that's based on our achievement, test scores and things like that. We got $3 million. Last year we got $2.7 million in outcome-based funding. This year we got over $3 million, a little bit over $3 million. So that was an increase. That will roll into our revenue for next year, which helps. We will get, in January, we will get an indication. We'll get a look at the governor's budget when he does his state of the state, and we'll see how much TISA money we'll get. We'll start in January getting runs of preliminary estimates of TISA. Just remember that each year over the last 2 years, we've lost somewhere between $1 million to $2 million as the year goes on, as they calculate local contribution and different things like that. So there's a lot, we're still trying to sort out exactly what's going to happen with federal budgets, state budgets. So there's a lot on the revenue side. There's still a lot up in the air. We will, just to give you a heads up, the county, Mr. Lawing retired at the county, so the county does not have, they have an interim finance director right now, and Bethany does a tremendous job, but they're down one person in a very small department, and so it's going to be hard on the county this year to get everything turned around, because there's a lot of budget meetings over there. And so just be aware there's going to be some nuances to the budget conversation this year as we work through all of that.
Mr. King?
Yeah, I would welcome, I mentioned this in November, I would welcome a discussion on the HVAC at Merrill Hyde. It's been going on for many years, and so whatever information is there, I'd love for us to at least have a discussion about whatever we can. And then I have two other items I'd like to add for discussion. One is policy 1.404, appeals and appearances before the board. I'd like to discuss amending the policy to allow public comments on non-agenda items. The county commission just approved this, and I think we ought to talk about adopting a similar policy to what they adopted. And then the third thing I'm interested in adding is a discussion of, and I don't even know if this is the correct policy, but I think it might be, but it's 5.801, Director of Schools Recruitment and Selection. And I would like us to amend either an existing policy or maybe even a new policy that states that the board attorney must be present whenever the board votes on a contract or an employment agreement contract to hire or renew a director of schools. And so I want to discuss about where can we put that. So those three items, I think, is what I would like to see discussed January 6th,
All right.
if possible.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Yeah, we'll build out the agenda and make sure we have those added. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, all right. Hey, thank you guys very much. Appreciate all of you. Merry Christmas, safe travels to you and to everyone in our school system. With that, we adjourn. Thanks.